1, 2. Ooh, let the moms out. It's funny because I feel like I sort of wait for this part to see how big our delay is.
That's also a good point.
On today's
It seemed
episode,
like it was quite small this time, like
yeah.
you
It was a short
didn't
delay.
take too
Yeah,
long to start.
it was definitely a short delay. On today's episode, welcome. We are going to be talking about postpartum. And by we, I mean probably mostly me because Paula has had a while since you had a postpartum. But still, I
Yeah,
think once you've gone through postpartum, you can never ungo through postpartum. Um,
that's true. But it's one of the things that, one of the first things that people tell you that you will forget, and it's so
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Like you do forget. It goes by
It's
so quickly. You just
you
forget.
have to, and you have to because if you don't forget, I don't think you would do it again, and then we would not procreate as a species, right? That's the thing. It's like, as a lot of you can
Then we
probably
have a
hear,
new guest. As you can see, our guest of honor
I
here
was about to say,
right now.
I was about to say, as you guys can probably hear, or those of you that are watching, as you can see, um, we were gonna attempt to do this episode without our guest, but she was not having it, which is why if you're looking at me, I'm all red from crying. Um, yeah, she is
We had a
not.
moment.
Yeah, we had a moment, postpartum. Hello, welcome. But here we are. Today we're going to talk about postpartum. If you're in postpartum, if you're about to be in it, or if you have been through it, I think this episode is going to, hit home because you'll feel seen.
Yes. All right, so let's start. Okay, my first question for you on it is, what was the hardest bit for you to remember that you remember from Alaska's postpartum and Atlas? What was the biggest difficulty you had for Alaska that you didn't have for Atlas, but what also was your biggest difficulty with Atlas, but you didn't find it with Alaska?
I mean, I think it's so interesting because I feel like postpartum is different for everyone, obviously, and even within like my two postpartums have been completely different
Yeah.
so far. Obviously, one of them it's only been 6 weeks, so I really 7 weeks today exactly to the day. I don't know that I can completely talk about postpartum like, oh, this is what happened because obviously it's still kind of soon. You can be postpartum for so long. With Alaska, it's also really strange because it was COVID time, so I feel like the universe, my universe at least, was completely, different. Two things that are very similar. I booked trips exactly 8 weeks after giving birth. So there's that. I haven't done the one for this time around yet, but I just realized yesterday, like, why do I keep doing like the 2 month mark for me? For most people, 2 months means take them to the pediatrician. For me, means get on a plane and go
Is
somewhere.
but also you were meant to actually go earlier. Do you
Yeah, that
remember
would have been a
that?
shit show.
You
That
were
would
going to
that
attempt to go earlier.
I I was meant to be back now from Japan, and I don't even have the birth certificate yet. Like that would have been
You did on changing that.
that would have been the most chaotic. I mean, I'm still pretty stressed. Okay, so back to your question though. I think okay, so I struggle a lot with anxiety all my life. And with Alaska, I had a fairly unanxious postpartum compared to the rest of my everyday living. But I will say that in hindsight, now looking back and having a second baby, I had so much fear. Like I remember specifically Alaska being, I don't remember how old she was, but I know it wasn't like 5 days old. A moment where I was just looking into her eyes and it just hit me. Like she smiled at me and I was like, oh my God, she liked what I did. She thought it was funny. I can play with this baby. Like I have been so caught up, so anxious, so afraid, so whatever you want to call it, so submerged into the world of making sure this baby stayed alive and everything was okay and whatever, that I have forgotten that she was my baby and that I also got to enjoy her. Like I could have fun. I could enjoy this baby. I didn't have to just, like just be petrified and afraid of everything all the time. I think with my firstborn, it was so yeah, I was just so afraid of making a mistake or doing something wrong. Like I remember the first shower, she cried. And I was like, oh my God, like the
Mm.
water is so cold, or it's too cold, or it's too hot, or oh, the wrong soap, or and I remember just I was so worried about having the right things. Versus this time around, I remember I was still on the couch, which means it was the day after giving birth because I only slept on the couch one night. So uncomfortable. And
Wow, that's great.
yeah. And then my brother came and Atlas started crying. I just grabbed her, put her in my, like, it was so seamless. And he looked at me and he was like, look at you, man. Like, you had a kid like 4 years ago and you just grabbed this baby. Like, you've been doing it every day since the beginning of your life. Like, you're so, like, something about like me seeming so ready,
Yeah.
so in control, so chill, you know? And I remember thinking in that moment and realizing, like, I'm not afraid at all. You know, like I was so confident. I am very confident. Like, yeah, I woke up today and Atlas has she has boogers and sniffles and all that stuff because Alaska had a virus like a few days ago or something. So I'm sure she's gonna get sick as well. And it's like, damn, that sucks. That means I'm not gonna sleep as well. She's gonna be more fussy, whatever. But it's never, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think I have to call the pediatrician, or I haven't even taken Atlas to the pediatrician yet, and she's 7 weeks old. She's never even been once to the doctor. And I feel 100% confident. She's gaining weight. Like, she's perfect. We're doing everything exactly like it should be. There's no questions in my mind. Like, I have gone a lot online to Google things. Um, but whereas
Of course.
before I would, yeah,
Trusty
yeah, yeah. Like
Google.
the mom anxiety and the Googling things doesn't go away, at least for people like me. But when I Google things, I'm automatically able to, one, lean towards the good one. Like, I don't automatically assume she's dying of some terminal disease. And two, like yesterday, for example, I Googled, because she was doing this thing where she would breastfeed and go like, like she does it a lot, or she was doing it a lot this past few days. And I was like, damn, like, what is going on? Like, that's not normal. Like, maybe it's normal for her. It wasn't normal for my first kid, but let me look it up. So I looked it up, and it turns out that it coincides with something else that I thought she was having anyway, which was a short latch. So she plays a lot with the nipple before she puts it in completely, even when it's like right there. Like, her mouth will be open. I'll put the whole thing in her mouth, and she'll spit it out, play with it, and then go. And I'm like, what is that? Like, my first baby never did this. Like, what's going on? And so anyway, I found out it was a short latch. So yesterday when I looked up the whole thing, it turned out it was also like a short latch thing. So automatically I was like, oh, okay, that's probably what it is. So let me just lift her pillow when she's drinking at the beginning, because a lot of milk is coming in, it's lingering in her mouth, and she's joking with it, right? Automatically. But normally, like, I think in my previous pregnancy, I would have gone down the rabbit hole of WebMD and found some terminal disease and convinced myself that somehow my baby was dying and I was doing everything wrong, and let me go to the ER, you know?
Oh, that's a really good way of looking at it now. Like it's definitely a bit of a weight, that lifts off your children. Obviously you still like, worry that, have those, intrusive thoughts, I imagine, but it's quite nice to know that, it's a bit like, it feels like a more automatic thing that you just, know how to
Yeah.
fall into what to do and stuff.
Like, the crazy voice is still coming along, but then I'm able to rationalize and be like, wait, hold on.
Yeah,
My first baby's still alive. This one will
exactly.
be two. It's not, let me, yeah, for sure.
I did
So
things
that's nice.
right. I can do it
Yeah.
again. That was very good. Okay, so now what was it with Atlas? What was it like the one like so for Alaska it was more of this anxiety and fear, and with Atlas, what got you? Like what was the difficult bit for you? Was there anything?
To be
Actually, that's
honest,
fine.
no. Like, I think both my babies have seamlessly integrated themselves into my life. Like, with Alaska, I feel like she was so easygoing for a baby that had parents that moved so much and traveled so much. Like, that was awesome. And then with Atlas, I feel like she just like has merged into this family of already three people so seamlessly as well. Like, she's so chill, she sleeps so much. This postpartum has been really easy because my body. So, like, actually, what I told you was what I struggle with as a mom. But my hardest part of my last postpartum was my body. Like, I had horrible hemorrhoids. I had just awful
Mm.
backache, lower backache, pelvis pain. I mean, you name it. I think with this postpartum, the hardest thing has been breastfeeding. And it wasn't really hard. It was just that my first breastfeeding experience was so seamless. Like, literally,
Mm.
the first day, my nipples were a little raw. The next day, my doula came, helped me. And ever since, it was pure enjoyment, like joy to have my baby drink from me, like literal joy. Like, it would actually bring me like oxytocin. Like, I would feel happy. And with Atlas, the first 3 weeks were rough. Like, I had the silver nipple things and the oils and the lanolin. I even switched from like the natural cream to the lanolin cream, which is natural as well, but like the organic brands or whatever. Like, I tried 4 different things because it was like I had like a scare of mastitis like 2 days in, my boob was swollen, like all these things all in the first like 3 weeks. Now it's back to being joyful and awesome. But I even wrote online asking other moms if they had a different experience second time to first time, because I just always thought, well, if breastfeeding was fine and so enjoyable the first time, obviously the second time will be at
Yeah.
least similar, you know? And it was not the same at all. But I think it's because Atlas, even though she doesn't have a tongue tie, she has a short latch.
Yeah.
And
You
that's just given her, like, she needed time to get adjusted to
got a
breastfeeding
big
again.
ass
And
nipple. That's the
that
problem.
that too. And I think also for my nipples the second time around, I needed time to like they had already like gotten used to like the freedom, and they were like, hold up.
They were not used to working anymore.
That was the hardest part actually so far. And honestly, it was only like almost 3 weeks long and not bad at all
Yeah, because
considering.
obviously your nipples were trying to heal, but obviously you had someone sucking on them, so it was just a difficult time for everybody involved.
Except for our body.
But yeah, I was gonna say yeah, it is different for all your births. I mean, I follow this mom that her fifth kid, she just had the fifth kid, and that's the first time she actually had problems breastfeeding. Like, and she didn't have any with any other kids except the
Wow.
fifth. That is kind of like that must have been really hard to.
I mean, it's a two people relationship breastfeeding, so it makes perfect sense actually.
Yeah,
How about you? What was
yeah.
the hardest thing for you? If you remember, I'm sure you remember.
Well, the hardest thing for me was because I had a C-section, so it was hard to walk. So
Mm.
also it was hard to poop. That was really hard.
Ah,
And I had to like do hypnobirthing for pooping. Yeah,
yeah.
like breathe it
Breathe
out.
through. It'll come when it's ready. Allow your
Yeah.
poop to come through.
Yeah, because I had to like get these like iron injections and I had to like take I had to take injections so I wouldn't get blood clots and then I would get um
Ah,
iron tablets. And that was so that was all like messes up. So it was the hardest thing was like really moving. But it was only like the first 2 weeks. Because like Flynn, like at the hospital, he straight on latched to the boob and I was like, I never let go.
nice. Yeah, that was Alaska too. She came out and she
Yeah.
was like, ah.
Ah. Like he came out peeing actually. He peed on the nurse, on the midwife, sorry. And then he was on me for like 2 hours naked and nobody like I mean it was my first kid and then the midwife comes like, oh, he's naked. Oh, you're lucky he didn't pee on you. And I was like, I mean, I don't know, nobody told me to get him dressed. I literally have anesthesia on me. I can't move or I have the door or
It
whatever.
was
I
so
had that.
funny. This reminds me of the first time we changed or we bathed Alaska. So we bathed her, right? And then like we put her in the towel on the changing table and we're like, oh, it's so cute. And we're drying her and putting lotion and like getting her all clean, getting her clothes ready. And then she just peed all over the place. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they do that. So that's when I learned that I had to always put the diaper on first.
Yeah. We learned that too. Flynn
And at
actually
least it was
pooped in
pee.
the
Yeah,
bathroom.
with that Atlas pooped in her bath, the first bath.
Matt was in it.
Nice. Nice.
That was funny. For me, of course. That was outside.
Yeah, of course, for him, I'm sure it
Um,
wasn't.
Okay, so next question I have for you is I had a question and now I've forgotten this. So on the day of you gave birth, how was that emotionally? Like afterwards, like how did you feel? Like describe that to us, please.
Amazing.
So
I
like,
felt like a goddess warrior that was put on this earth to bring baby, not babies, but baby, to bring this baby. Yes,
baby.
I felt that way with both my children. Um, I've had two unmedicated home births. My first was rather long, I think, by my standards, even though everybody kept telling me it was short for a first time birth. I'm like, short. I was pushing for 8 hours. Um, but
Yeah,
it
I mean, that's
was,
not short. So
yeah, well,
2 hours is short.
yeah. So my
Anything
second
above
birth,
that is long.
Yeah, my second birth is 2.5 hours long, and it was
See?
absolutely wonderful and beautiful and amazing. And I finished birthing her, and automatically I felt relieved and strong and just awesome, awesome, awesome. I felt like a superwoman. And I, like, again, I'm a person who have struggled with anxiety for the most part of my life, and also who hasn't felt amazing about herself through the majority of her life, I think because of the anxiety. And for me, both births have brought this just tremendous feeling of self-confidence and self-belief and self-support. Like, for the first time in my life, when I gave birth to my first daughter, I felt like I was supporting myself. Like I was like, "Yeah, girl," like rooting for me. I feel like there's always two of me inside of me. One is the one that's just going with emotions and doing things that have to be done, and the other one is always second guessing and almost never rooting for me until things get accomplished and someone else comes and tells me that I'm awesome, right? Like I'm never just rooting for myself from the get-go. And right after giving
Yeah.
birth, both times, um, I have that voice on my side. Like for the first time, I never felt that until I gave birth to Alaska. Like it was like I was telling myself how amazing I was. I was telling myself how great a job I did. I was sitting there going like, you could do anything. Like you're amazing. Yeah. And that was unexpected. I just didn't expect it. I was so ready to feel like crap and to have postpartum depression and all that stuff. And I just felt so good about what I had done that I don't know, it was really, really welcoming. Like I welcome that feeling. And it was why I wanted to do another home birth. And this second time around, it was the same thing. Like after I gave birth, this time around, especially because I also felt so good physically. Because the first one I felt great about what I had done and everything, but I was physically in pain and uncomfortable. But this
Yeah. Okay.
second
But
time,
afterwards,
I
you feel
just
like help.
yeah, but this time I felt so good that I just felt like I could carry the universe on my shoulders. I just felt like
Honestly, you kind of deserve that though. You deserved that after the 9 months you kind of endured
yeah.
of
I also
bringing.
had a really yeah, and so I don't know, I don't know if that feeling came from the birth or from the awful, awful, awful I had a horrible pregnancy. Like I think if you compare my pregnancy to people that have like medical issues, then I had a great pregnancy, you know.
If you
But
want to
for
hear
a
all about it, it's
no.
just 2 episodes beforehand.
Yes, it's 2 episodes back. Go listen to it. It was just really
Great.
challenging.
Okay, it was a great day.
It was yes. So giving birth was very welcoming, and I have a baby who's giving me this stink eye.
Yeah,
I
she's
think I
like,
just
how
flicked.
dare you?
I
How
think I
dare
just.
you?
I think I just flicked her with my hair, so she's like.
Well, that was very rude. I was gonna say, like, I feel like it's really inspiring, honestly, that you felt like that because, like, in my head, I was telling that person that always second doubts it. It was second doubting me when I was giving birth. I kept telling me, no, I don't want to do this anymore. No, close it up.
Yeah, I had that. So I had that feeling too. Actually, during this second birth, I felt really confident leading up to my birth. Oh my goodness, do we have a smiley baby? So this time around, I had a very I was gonna say I have a very smiley baby. This time around, I was very confident leading up to the birth. I had a small moment of I don't know if I can do this, but mostly I was happy.
Oh.
Hi. But the first time I kept messaging my midwives like, "Are you sure I'm not giving birth now? These contractions are really strong. Are you sure this is not giving birth? Oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna wake up and the baby's gonna come out." And they kept going like, "Dude, I know you feel that way, but honestly, it's very unrealistic. It's not gonna happen like that." And I was like, "Okay." Also, are you sure I can do it? Can I do this? Can I really? Can I do this? Like, I remember 11 a.m. I was like leaning over the pool, thinking, "I can't do this anymore. If I faint and wake up in a hospital, I'll be happy." And then I still didn't birth a baby for like until 3:42 p.m. So it was a long, long time of giving birth. It was just not.
Yeah, I was exactly me. But yeah, no, when I even in the pool and then like they would take me out, I was like, no, I don't want it. No. The contractions are coming back. Hi, baby. You
Hi.
like you actually look like a mermaid,
I
by
think
the way.
that me.
Yeah.
This was Alaska's first comment. She's like, "Oh, you look like a little mermaid." What do you think? What do you think? Is there poop coming? She's smiling. Are you smiling and looking for the boob? This podcast episode you need to watch, because if you're not watching, it's gonna be really weird. I'm just sitting here talking to a baby, but if you're watching, you can see this baby.
We'll hopefully put the link on the caption for you guys. So you can go and see it on YouTube.
Yes.
Aww. So you get to be Atlas.
Yes, you get to meet baby
I
Atlas.
have the last question. Of
Go
course, Atlas came into the show, so now I've forgotten.
ahead.
Look at her
I
face.
feel like this
She's
this
hovering,
episode is a
hovering.
this episode is a typical like mom life episode. Also, can we notice how big she is? That
She's like, she's a little fat baby. It's
she's
like,
like
stop.
she's like an old man that finished a meal and it had too much dessert. Like, look at
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly. Oh,
I have a question for you about postpartum.
okay.
What was your most unexpected thing that happened to your body that nobody told you about?
Oh, I had well, my boobs. Firstly, like I never thought they would grow bigger. So I thought that the bigger they would ever get was through pregnancy. I never expect them to get bigger afterwards. Nobody told me that.
Oh, well, that
Or
must
I
have been a
read
rude
it like
awakening.
you didn't read. I didn't even read anywhere. Like your boobs will get bigger. No, like
Yeah.
like you get the first five, like the first week, like your boobs still don't grow. Like they only, when the milk comes in, it's like a few days later. So that was a surprise. All right. And also the fact that people kept telling me that I was gonna bounce back. That was like the biggest, because like I didn't bounce back.
Oh,
It
oh,
was
I
like
was literally thinking
very
about this.
disappointing.
Yeah, so like I met a girl when I was pregnant that my sister knew, and she had just given birth. And she came to me and she was like, by the way, I know everybody says that when you breastfeed, you're gonna lose the baby weight, but you probably are actually gonna gain weight. And I was like, damn, this person is so rude. Like the way she said that, I was like, wow, but it's so true. It can happen like that. And that happened for me. And so I will say though, being now my second postpartum, and of course it could be she's bored by this conversation. She's like, woman, stop.
How dare
Where's
you
my
complain about
boob?
breastfeeding?
I will say, so it could be that your body is different. It could be that pregnancies are different and you gain weight differently. But I gained almost 10 pounds more with my second pregnancy than with my first. I'm already down 35 pounds from my second pregnancy than I was with my first. I'm still obviously nowhere near my ideal weight or post pre-baby weight or whatever. Not that I care about that. But I will say when I was pregnant with when I was postpartum with my first, I feel like the reason I gained the weight back, so I had lost like 15 pounds during the birth or something, or those first days. And then I feel like I gained that weight back and or just stayed at that weight for 3 years. And a lot of
Yeah.
that had to do with inflammation in my body because I would get hungry while breastfeeding late at night, early in the morning. And instead of eating the right things, like I don't think I had enough information and knowledge on proper nutrition for breastfeeding. Everybody talks to you about how you should eat during pregnancy for your baby, but nobody really tells you how to eat for yourself after baby. She's not crying, she's farting, she's trying to fart.
Oh, I was like,
If you're looking at her, yeah, if you're looking at her and you're wondering what's going on, she's trying to fart. And so, what I learned this time around is that you need better nutrition postpartum even than during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, your nutrition is iffy because you have to eat with what the baby wants, right? And you may have aversions. But postpartum, you have to learn how to re-eat for a body that's working for two. It's really working for two, and you are going to be eating for two. But if you're eating for two with cakes and cookies and whatever you're finding in the fridge at 3 in the morning because you're hungry, obviously you're never going to bounce back. So your body will shed a lot of the fat you've accumulated and a lot of the extra weight that you've accumulated through breastfeeding if you continue giving yourself proper nutrition. But if you're just eating whatever junk, you're going to give the baby some fat, but you're also going to be storing some new fat. That's what I have learned. Because this time around, I'm
that's
getting
definitely
rid of.
one of the things that I did wrong. Even
Yeah, me
during
too.
pregnancy, to be fair,
Me
like
too.
I
Me
just
too.
indulged on everything.
Well, for both my pregnancies, I have not been able to like this pregnancy, I try to eat a lot more proteins and vegetables and stuff like that. I normally eat like this and like eating like this anyway. So that wasn't an issue. But like if I wanted to have a cake, I wasn't able to just not have a cake. I had to have the cake. Like I'm not one of those people that can just be like, oh, let me just come back on sweets. I'm like, No, I'm gonna have the sweets. So I had the sweets, and I still have the sweets, but now that I know a lot about biohacking, I'm able to just regulate that a lot more, and my body has just responded a lot better. But my
Yeah.
first time postpartum, I felt so helpless because I just continued getting bigger and bigger and more inflamed and just more uncomfortable. And it was so disappointing because I had this narrative that it should be the other way. I wish somebody would have told me, like, yo, you're not just gonna magically lose the weight because you have a baby on your boob, you know?
But that's what everyone tells you, isn't it? Like everyone
Yeah,
tells you that you're
yeah.
just gonna lose the weight because
Or
you
like
know
when
you're
you're after running
breastfeeding.
after the baby, after you start running after the baby, you're gonna lose the weight because you're gonna be so tired. You don't run after the baby until they're like 10 months old. You're not running
Yeah.
anywhere. You're sitting down breastfeeding. You're sitting, making your ass flat, gaining weight, eating cookies at 3 in the morning.
Yep. Exactly. And and what was I gonna say there?
We should call this
I know,
episode.
and then because you were skinny before pregnancy, everybody has the audacity to tell you you gotta bounce back, and you believe that. I believed it.
We're gonna call this episode the one where Paula forgot all the questions.
Paula does not remember what she's about to ask.
Uh-uh.
I didn't actually.
No
I
one.
had the last question, but it's gone now.
Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode. And I would love to hear, we would love to hear, what was the most surprising thing, good or bad, about your postpartum journey? And if you've had more than one, the differences, because I think it's really fascinating to learn that there are so many differences between one baby and the other from the same woman, same body. Like, some people might say, okay, my kids were like 7 years apart. She's smiling. But for me, I had my first at 31, second at 35. So it's not even the age thing. Cause I had a cousin who was like, yeah, like I feel like we have an age for birthing. And I'm like, well, my kids were like not that many years apart. So it's not like I had one at 25 and one at 35, or
Yeah.
like I had a major life change, or that I was considerably, like, let's say, less agile or bigger in my second pregnant, like none of that, right? I had the same body type, body weight for both pre getting pregnant with both babies. I had the same dad, same mom, similar lifestyle, similar eating habits, similar, not the same. That changed. But I mean, obviously, I don't think I can have that much of an impact on everything postpartum? So I just think our bodies
I
are
like
different and
that
our babies are
you
different too.
clarified it was the same mom. Could be identical, but
And my brain has gone to poop after giving birth both times equally clearly.
oh my god, I actually thought you were meant that you went to poop. So I was just like, what?
Oh, here's something surprising. I never had issues pooping, neither pregnant nor
Ah, yeah.
postpartum, with any of my
Yeah,
kids.
I did. Many,
Yeah,
many. Well, during pregnancy too. So
I've
I've
never
only
had
just
issues.
started going back to, pre-pregnancy poops. That it took me like 3 years to go back to normal.
That's
That's
insane.
4 years
Yeah,
actually, if you count pregnancy, to be fair. So,
yeah, that's
and I
crazy.
was not regular. It was beauty. Of course, we end
Beauty,
up talking about poop.
of course.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Let us know. Follow us on Instagram at Who Let the Moms Out, Who Let the Moms Out .pod. Come tell us your stories, your poop stories, your pregnancy stories, any stories.
Everything
Nothing is off
counts.
limits. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.